let's talk about why. Let's talk about why they would care so much about taking marijuana and reclassifying it. You have a substance that has very minimal drawback. A lot like fruits, vegetables, or anything else that people can just consume, right? And you can start adding in things that make it slightly more potent, that alter it, that make it still consumable and not necessarily that harmful to people, but can target specific areas of those people. You know, making people just get so high that, you know, they're always just kind of having green out days and they don't really want to do anything and they're just being in a consumption loop. And I think that that's the big thing about it, is it just is a substance that helps enable consumption. And that's the only reason why it's the only substance from Schedule 1 that actually started making it out of Schedule 1 over time. Although there's things like mushrooms and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with those substances not being a Schedule 1 either. It's just that they would enable too much positive change in the world. And I think that that's like the big difference between any other substance, is that you and me and nobody can really get away from marijuana being a huge enabling factor to be able to give people, once again, zero drawback. And not really have any problems, or have very minor problems. Like, you know, someone might go to the hospital for greening out, but this kind of signals something bad at the end of the day, though, and not necessarily something good. Because, for instance, for mushrooms, you know, there's 256 clinical trials on clinicaltrials.org. Like, there's a lot of positive research around the substance, but if they started synthesizing psilocybin, and they started synthesizing it in general, it's not going to be good. It's going to change the way that people end up in taking it, and they then get to alter the substance. And altering the substance is where you start having a problem. But that substance has too many positive benefits for that gap to really be bridged. And that's my only actual like reference in talking about weed when it comes to something else that is still considered a very harsh, punishing Schedule 1 substance, but doesn't need to be at all. And there's literally no justification for it other than malice intent against the positive that comes out of that substance being regulated. And even now, I'm sure there's still a lot of back and forth messing around with, you know, some people have setups in a legal way in their state, but it's not legal federally, so they can get a federal raid and they can, you know, things can happen. Like, there's also all that kind of money stuff that kind of goes on. So reclassifying it and changing up the terms is just getting more specific on dialing in how they're eventually going to be able to legalize it. And then it's just going to be just like tobacco. And there's nothing wrong with that, because, like, obviously it's better than tobacco, right? Well, you know, when they start getting the ability to alter it at scale and not have to worry about things like that, then... But it's no different right now than, you know, cartels and things outside of the U.S. end up bringing other substances in, and they have their own economy, and even proof that the government themselves have been involved with that stuff over time. You know, I'm sure that it's the same thing with marijuana being where it's at right now across all the states, from it not being federally legal to it being locally legal in people's states.